into taking the back, and the first move that we're going to look at is just a classic staple where we're looking at the chair sit. So the chair sit, we are looking for back exposure where our opponent or training partner has lifted their shoulder blades off the mat and we're able to attach our chest to their back. So we want chest to back connection so we can establish direct rotational control as we talked about in the back control overview. So then we can start throwing in our hooks. So from here, what we're just going to do is look at this from side control as like an easy way of our opponent turning away from us. So if Rob is here like this, we talked about in the back control overview that there are ways for us to use lever-based rotational control to force somebody to turn away from us, but that gets a little more advanced. What we want right now is our opponent to turn away from us. And while we can do that with like forcing a crossface and stuff, what I want you guys to just kind of do right now with your training partners while you're practicing this is your partner just turns away. When the back is exposed, we can see here the nice Island Top Team logo. That's like a great indicator right here. This is that space that I want to connect myself to so that Rob can't just get his back to the floor again. Because if I don't fill that space, he's just going to do that. So what I want to do is I want to get behind his shoulders and I want to start getting my chest connected to him. Now this is something that a lot of people screw up at first when they're learning this, is they kind of sit the chest too much on top of the shoulder. And so if you think of this like a wall, I want to make sure that I'm creating a strong wedge right behind his back here. If I sit just kind of on top like this, obviously if I pushed here, and I'll have a little graphic showing this, all we see is that I'm just going to kind of push Rob back down. And even if I'm just a little bit behind the shoulder, it's not going to be enough to stop him. So I really need to make sure that my chest doesn't sit on top of Rob like this, because that's what happens. Oh, nothing good. But if I can make sure that I get myself low, so I'm actually starting to get his shoulder behind, in front of my shoulder, and I can start to get my chin towards his ear, it can make it much more difficult for him to bring that left shoulder back. Now, in some cases, as you can see, Rob's right shoulder was starting to slide out away from me, but as we start creating some forward pressure into him, and we start looking to actually connect that seatbelt connection, it's not going to be a problem. So as Rob's turned away here, I want an underhook going through. I want the overhook coming around Rob's neck, and I'm connecting that seatbelt connection that we talked about in the overview, and I'm lowering myself down and I'm live toes because I want to make sure that I have base to be able to drive as if I want to flatten Rob out. Because I don't care if Rob keeps turning away from me. The two directions he can turn is creating more back exposure as he runs towards turtle, and the worst direction is where he puts his back flat to the mat. So here as he turns, I connect that seatbelt connection, my underhooking arm coming over top of the overhooking arm. I drop my chest behind his shoulder, shoulder behind his shoulder. My chin's going to be pretty close to his ear, and I'm in live base, live toes, so I can drive forward. This is a great testing point now with your training partner, that if Rob tries to turn back in towards me, I should be able to hold him here. If your training partner can turn back in, we're screwing that up. We're not creating enough pressure and we're not controlling properly right behind that shoulder. So as I'm here, what I want us to do now is while I'm able to drive forward and mobilize my hips, I'm going to bring my right knee, the knee on the same side of his head, up behind him, like I'm creating like a pillow, and my back and my foot and leg are running across his back dead toes. I'll show another angle in a second. So that my elbow is going to be connected, knee-elbow connection, strong structure, can even sit on top. What this is going to be doing is helping create a bit of a fulcrum so that when I start to throw the long hook in and pull him to the other side, it's quite easy to be maneuverable. It doesn't take a lot of flexibility. And with the live toes, I'm able to lift myself still. So as my right leg is going to be coming up, I can still generate base off my left foot to lift my hips. You can see I can lift my right foot right off the mat here. And I bring it behind his back here. Dead toes. Live toes isn't going to do anything for me here. I want to lower my center of gravity. I can sit on my hip now at this point. I don't have to be up on my knee. And what this is going to allow me to do is lean to the side here so I'm able to help open up the knee-elbow connection if I need to against a partner that knows what he's doing, but also throw my hook in without having to use a lot of flexibility. If I stay more upright like this, I'd have to have some really good hamstring flexibility to throw that leg over. But here, if I can lean, I can now throw a long hook in. And from here, I'm going to generate base by lifting myself up, pushing off of the ground with my elbow as well as my hip to lift like this, to just pull him over to the opposite side hip, which then now I land with the long hook. So we could certainly go into something like a body triangle immediately. Hooks if you need to get the points in competition. Lots of different options that you can do from there. We want to throw that long hook all the way over so that we don't get caught in half guard. So as I'm here, I bring myself up, I sit down on my leg. Now from here, I make sure I keep that chest to back connection the best I can. You can see how my chin's a little more over his shoulder here, that's fine. I'm connecting. Now I can lean. This is also good that if Rob was to, say, start forming knee elbow connection here to make it more difficult for me to get that hook in, I'm gonna be able to use this by dropping my shoulder, rolling it forward and opening up my elbow here to open up that space to make it more difficult for him to stay connected here, like this. And you can see I can actually lean quite a bit, but I'm still keeping strong connection to the chest. My head can detach a bit here, but my chest is connected to his back still. Long hook, as in that foot goes all the way across to the ground, and I suck my heel into his hip. It's not the end of the world if this happens right here, but I have less control, and now he's got a half guard potentially. This is just going to turn into a hook if I get the back take established correctly, but this is going to be stronger control, stopping him from being able to hip out away from me. From here, I push off. Big mistake that people make here is they just detach at that point. Rob wants to come with me on this trip. Or he doesn't want to, but I want to make sure that he does. So I don't ever move my body without him coming with me. From here, I stay nice and tight, and I drive off with my leg, just like that. It's very gentle. There's not a lot that he can do to create opposing force here to make this too difficult. Lifting up like this, and now I'm just rocking to the side as this foot starts to come out. And I can bring it into the game to switch to my different forms of lower body control. So the chair sit is a fundamental back take, and it's a great way of just learning how to take advantage of back exposure when it's created. You are looking for your opponent at any time when they have lifted their shoulder blades off the mat, and in the case of like with Rob's key, that you can see that island top team patch. Anytime you see that patch or that space between the shoulder blades exposed, there's going to be the possibility for back takes. And then as you get more advanced, you're going to find better ways of forcing people to either move them with lever-based rotational control, or force dilemmas where they're going to have to make a poor decision and they want to go a certain route to try and escape in hopes that they're going to be able to get out.
It's important to note for beginners that this is one of those movements that you may not see an opportunity to do it as often against other beginners because they tend not to turn away. So depending on where you train, you may have been told that you should never turn away from your opponent, which is not true. If you watch any amount of high-level grappling, that's absolutely not true. But because that's a very common thing that's taught to beginners, people will not do this as willingly as beginners, honestly. Although, again, absolute beginners, yes, they'll turn away for no good reason, whereas more advanced people will turn away because they have no choice, especially in a competition environment. If Rory passes my guard and I stay on my back, I concede points. If Rory passes my guard and I turn away, I maybe can get to turtle. So I'm basically rolling the dice on a guaranteed score or a maybe score, and so most competitors will take that chance. And so you will see people turning away as quickly as they can, trying to get all the way to turtle to face their opponent, and that's going to be the opportunity that you may or may not be seeing.
Yeah.
So just something to bear in mind. And another thing that's important is we're distinguishing this movement from the battle for the hook, like Rory's talking about, the long hook. If I get to here, and I've got somebody who's now, maybe he's going to take that risk, and then I got this far, and he's like, uh-oh, he needs to stop moving away from me. The battle for getting this leg in is its own thing. As you get more and more experienced people, they're more and more likely to do this. And so, maybe at a future date, if you like our stuff, you can look into us teaching stuff like this, or you can find some other free resources. But this by itself is a battle that, depending on your flexibility, you're going to need to put some thought and some training into. This leaning method absolutely works. Adding some lever control by grabbing the wrist absolutely works. There are a lot of ways to go about it. You can see even there, like if Rory really wants to keep his knee-elbow connection tight, I can have a bit of a task ahead of me. So just also be prepared for that to be its own battle, rather than just always being able to bring the leg over.
And as we had done showing in the beginning of the video, Rob had done the chair sit from mount. It's Works the exact same. The only difference is when it comes from a learning perspective is that you're not positioned obviously perpendicular to your opponent to create like that really strong drive to roll them over.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to be a lot faster and better connected with your chest to your opponent's back. So if Rob's here and mount, and as my elbow drifts across the center line, Rob's able to go into that same chair sit and go straight to the back.
The bonus there is I don't have to fight for the hook.
Yeah, already
you,
goes in. So there's going to be it's a quicker path to the back. But like I said, one of the best things when you're first learning this is from side control is that as Rob's turned is getting used to that idea of being able to actually drive force into your opponents, that as they try and go back, it's so easy for me to create a crap ton of force and drive someone like that, where I wouldn't be able to when my hips are on top of Rob already in mount. But things to work on for each. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. The idea here is someone's just turning away from you and they haven't built up to turtle. And so we want to take advantage of this before somebody has gotten into good base and they're going to start having a lot more mobility with their hips. But if they manage to build a turtle, we have the next 3 videos dedicated to attacking that.